is just a smoke screen of hope. You acting like we got control over who gets chosen. I think it's a joke. The president's on dope, different coat. He's just a puppet of Patsy, taking orders from a cult of the mask. He was dancing with the devil, so we can't ever trust. You got us by the balls, power, blood, money, and lust. Just take control of yourself. You know that change is a must. The initials of the U.S. is us. Before you join the military, see what the war's about. We got a lot of dirt to clean in our house.
Committed treason. It's the reason we stand and we fight through the darkness and the light. The government lied.
Soldiers died in the fire of war. They got burnt. They had to learn the hard way. The freedom isn't free, so they paid the
price with their life. And now you miss them. Some are still missing. This ain't the Christian coalition. I'm a child of the earth that study this knowledge without a need of a church. Of course I thank the Lord, but no thank you for the war. All of what we fighting for. It's the rich against the poor. Missiles flying overhead. Bodies coming home dead.
Ago, a secret dream was planned. Before Columbus came, they knew about this land. For the post-war plan of the man to cross borders is first make chaos, then bring order. They claim to help and instead create the problem and pose as the heroes, placed there to solve them. Eventually, it will be a one-world democracy. It'll be placed with a two-faced hypocrisy. Another crime committed against the common good, and when it's said and done, we're still misunderstood. It's not a question of who's wrong or right. I know that personal greed ain't no reason to fight.
And I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran.
This is the business, and y'all ain't getting nothing for free. And if you devils play broke, then I'm taking your company. You could call it reparations or restitution. Lock and load, nigga.
Hey, what's up, folks? Wicksack Info Bros. So we're gonna be doing some videos on geoengineering, chemtrails, if you will. And we're going to take this one step by step because this is huge. I think that it's probably a tie as far as a serious threat to our society. I mean, as a people, the plants, I mean, everything. This entails everything. The health of everything, the health of everyone. I think this is probably right up there with, you know, GMOs in the food and fluoride in the water. This is bad shit. Now, chemtrails is the name that they give for the conspiracy theorists. That's what they say, don't look at this, these people are crazy, you know, whatever. The fact is, they talk about this all the time, except they don't use that term. They use geoengineering, or what they really use is solar radiation management, weather warfare, if you will. But recently they've been starting to come out with this ocean fertilization, is what it's called. Now they could say that they're doing this to help with global warming and stuff like that. I don't buy it for a fucking second. I do know one thing. It's burning the shit out of California, and it's just shriveling up like a dry pussy. The implications for this, if we don't stop it, are epic, biblical. Now, I'm not going to get into the big shit about weather weapons and stuff like that, okay? It fucking exists. It has since the fucking late 40s, early 50s. And you can go anywhere and look that up. Now it even says in the Geneva Convention that you cannot, no country may use weather as a weapon against another country. It says you can use it freely though in your own country if you want to use cloud seeding and shit like that to make it rain or whatever. Go right ahead, but you can't do it with another country. It would be considered a fucking war crime. Alright, so this isn't bullshit, folks. Now, I'm going to get pretty upset about this. This is one topic, and you know, I'm heavy up on this. I've loaded this shit on planes. I've I've talked to all sorts of people about this. I talked to people in Cal Fire who said that they're finding this shit all over the fucking woods that are burning up in the wildfires. That is also helping create the wildfires. That's another story. But my buddy Jim Lee, he's gonna tell you all about this, and I would take heed to Jim. Listen to this man. This is probably some of the best research that you're gonna find on this stuff. And you want to check out his pages and stuff like that, you can just go to climateviewer.com or terraforminginc.com. And I don't know what else to say, folks. You know, I really hope a lot of you guys take this to heart. It's a very major, serious problem facing us, and I'll certainly be, you know, doing a lot more about this. And I mean, I just think of this stuff, that everything it entails, and it just blows my mind that you know, people can take someone's words, especially someone who's worked in doing this stuff, who's actually worked with this stuff, who's actually did maintenance on the fucking airplanes, putting on the chemtrail sprayers. I don't know. That's all the info I got for right now. Just listen to Jim. He's got some incredible information that you guys, everybody should hear. So that's it for now. God bless and carry on.
Welcome to the Radiation Database, the wild world of science nonfiction. My name is Jim Lee, resonated.com, resonated.net, climateviewer.com, and I'm here to give you a big update on weather modification and really straighten out a lot of things that people are concerned about. Climate Engineering Exposed, Weather Modification and Geoengineering Research page on resonated.com/WXMod. This page is dedicated to disproving all you tinfoil hat, comment posting, sock puppets, trolls, and e-bastards. Herein you will find the most complete directory of weather modification related companies, associations, and related research on the net. So on this page you can find weather modification companies such as Raytheon, talking to the Weather Modification Association, the University Corporation of Atmospheric Research, National Center for Atmospheric Research, and the list goes on. Weather derivatives guys, people who bet on the stock market or insure crops, a timeline of weather derivatives. The Weather Modification Association, their members, Texas Weather Modification Association, U.S. military, and other. This list will grow exponentially. This is only the first go-round, people. I need you to submit your companies. If you know of a company that's not on the list, email me. It's on the front page of resonated.com, or click more. Weather modification projects. This is the NOAA weather modification programs listings. I don't know how, you know, if this is everything that was done that year, but at least this is supposedly everything that was reported. I got these from Agriculture Defense Coalition.org, Rosalind Peterson's excellent website. Here you can see a Google map that you can zoom in and actually look at these programs, some of them. I'm still working on this. This map will change, and you can click Earth right here and click over to like a 3D version of it. Pretty cool. As well, click up here and it'll click you over to Climate Viewer, the program, and you can use the full 3D version and really get in there and be nosy, be real nosy. More programs. This as well, all of these pages will grow over time. The majority of what you're seeing here came from a WordPress blog post that I did a year and a half ago, and most of this information was in that one post, but I had to really flesh it out. So here we are. Geoengineering projects. This is from Etc. Group, The World of Geoengineering. And you have 151 pages of geoengineering projects and programs. I will be adding each of these to the map. They're currently not on there, but they will be appearing on this map very soon. And coming back real quick. And climate engineering patents. Again, this is my initial list from a year and a half ago. It will grow, I'm sure. Very cool stuff. So, on to the legal. We have weather modification federal regulations, such as how you report, who you report to, all of the legal ramifications. Weather modification court cases, people who got sued for causing floods or droughts. Very interesting stuff there. Weather modification reporting forms. Here's the actual form from corporateservices.noaa.gov, where you initial report on weather modification activities. And into the next 1946 cloud seeding with Vincent Schaefer and Project Storm Fury and all of the gory details. Cloud seeding still goes on today, either by plane or ground. And there's got to be a way to push for that. And I'm going to come up with something in the near future, and we'll write it up, and everybody can kind of help me make sure that it's right, and we'll get it up on the whitehouse.gov and try to push for it. But I think that's something that's doable. I think that with all the conspiracy stuff surrounding chemtrails and all of the real concern that people have, that it's their duty to acknowledge that we are concerned and we should be notified. Sunshine Act, baby. Sunshine Act. Also, you got the climate engineers playing God to save the planet. I highly suggest everybody read this one. I mean, this is some great inside details. It's where I got my logo from. I edited this. Pretty awesome. Very, very good details in this one. Please read it. The pathological history of weather and climate modification. Another really good one. And Rosalind Peterson, Agriculture Defense Coalition. Check her website out. The woman's got amazing research. Finally, chemtrails, planned and inadvertent weather modification. Now, a lot of people talk about chemtrails and they say, oh, chemtrails don't modify the weather. I call BS. Here's your proof. Show it to anybody in the future that calls you a tinfoil hat wearing fool or whatever. You tell them chemtrails do modify the weather. The American Meteorological Society acknowledges it. Here's 3 videos on YouTube. They came from the AMS. These are where they explain in detail how it works. Your face. So there you go. Bonus, right? And a history of U.S. secret human experimentation. This is kind of how they get away with doing this stuff, because on the books they can do it for any peaceful purposes that are related to medical, therapeutic, pharmaceutical, agricultural, industrial, or research activity. So yeah, they can spray all the chemicals they want in the air right now because of this law and their ability to do it for research or agricultural reasons. So that's another one we're going to need to work on, people. But lots of documented cases where people were not notified and bad things happened. There you go. So why am I so concerned? Why did I spend all this time making this website? Because every day you don't care, we're one step closer to carbon taxes, unilateral planetary scale geoengineering, weaponized weather, and the blue gold rush. If you don't know what those 4 things are, you need to find out right now and quit wasting your time with a lot of other things. This is very serious, and it needs our attention. And then as well, HAARP, terrorism, and futzing with the screwing with the weather. Environmental event contracts are traded on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the NADEX. They go by many names, weather derivatives. Basically it's crop insurance, things like that. You know, you can bet on temperatures. You can bet against hurricanes. There's all kinds of things going. The Commodity and Futures Trade Commission was doing a question and answer period saying, hey, you know, should we look into doing something about these event contracts? And they got a response. It's right here, and I suggest everybody read through this one because it really goes right to the heart of how scary this could be.
Escalate into the largest global catastrophe mankind has ever known.
Sweeping through an eternal vacuum, through blazing heat and bitter cold, exposed to mysterious radiation, man-made satellites circle the Earth. Traveling at fantastic speeds, these eyes in outer space give us knowledge for future exploration, and also vital information that will lead to a better understanding of one of nature's great forces, the weather. With awesome violence and destruction, the weather is one of man's oldest and mightiest adversaries. But in its ever-changing moods, the weather brings us beauty. The weather gives us our daily bread. The weather makes possible all living things. Adventurous scientists are probing the atmosphere itself, climbing to incredible altitudes in their search for knowledge. New scientific tools are being used, rockets launched from balloons. And rockets launched from the ground carry instruments higher and higher. Unfortunately, these flights last but a short time, and only a small amount of information can be obtained. But now we have more advanced scientific devices for gathering data continuously over long periods of time, not only from the atmosphere, but from space beyond. These future satellites will be the key to precise forecasting and control of weather. 22,000 miles out in space, 3 robot satellites train their sensitive television eyes on all parts of the Earth. These pictures are monitored on viewing screens in the Weather Center. Here in the computing room, electronic machines digest the constant flood of information received from all stations. This is then translated into an ever-changing diagram of the Earth's weather. Forecasts for every sector of the globe are made months in advance. Prediction charts have indicated that a powerful hurricane will begin forming today in the Atlantic Ocean. The electronic weather map shows an intense storm system building up about 1,000 miles due east of Miami, Florida. The controller calls for a close-up satellite view of the troubled area.
Coordinates. Coco 526, Yankee 2.5.
Okay, controller. Coco 526, Yankee 2.5.
The characteristic swirling clouds of the hurricane are beginning to form. At sea, the waves anticipate the violence to come. The controller calls for a last-minute prediction of the hurricane's path. Specially equipped robot aircraft are dispatched immediately to release a high concentration of cloud-seeding material into the fringes of the storm. Heavier seeding from the ground also helps to subdue the rain by spreading it over a wider area. The controller calls for another view of the hurricane, which has now moved closer to the coast.
Signal out on number 1 satellite. 10-minute interruption for correction. Have you anything else in the area?
Satellite station S1 is approaching area. We'll make contact. S1, this is Weather Central. Request video signal at grid coordinates COCO.
An emergency situation has developed. In an orbiting space station 1,000 miles above the hurricane, a crewman sends a temporary picture back to Weather Central.
Okay, S1, your video is R5S5. Thank you.
The hurricane has stopped moving toward the coast, but is still intensifying. It must be made to move northward and out to sea. This is a crisis.
Aberdeen Station. Activate multiple seeding rockets on course 117.
The controller decides to fire cloud seeding rockets just ahead of the hurricane, hoping to start it moving. Slowly, the hurricane begins to shift. All available forces have been brought into play. Now we can only watch and wait. After hours of tension, the turning point is reached. Latest reports indicate the control strategy is successful. At last, the high-pressure ridge has settled along the coast, forming an invisible wall of safety. The storm is over. The danger has passed. The hurricane has been defeated, turned away from the land, and left to spend itself harmlessly far out at sea. In the world of tomorrow, weather control will enrich and safeguard our daily lives. In the foreseeable future, we will conquer more than violent storms. We will turn the destructive elements of today into new sources of power, shaping the land on which we live. All mankind will benefit. Arid wastelands will be made green and fertile, and vast frozen areas will become productive. To this end, man-made satellites will probe the secrets of the skies. They will be our eyes in outer space.
What we're looking at, we have this black line, as you see, very clear fluid glasses here. We have almost a pentagram out there. It is horrible to look at today. I don't know, they started out around 8:30 And I mean, they just keep coming back and forward, back and forward, back and forward. And one right there in the making as we speak is unbelievable. And you want to call this for contrails? I mean, what the hell is wrong with you? You see, we got a circle around the sun now. You see that? We got the shadow, black line. I also got 3 black lines on a still image. This is just crazy.
The story behind the story. Or as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story. There's an article from Breitbart, and there's a lot of other publications breaking this down and going over it today, that President Obama is moving ahead with a push for basically carbon tax emissions on aircraft in this country. Now, we already have emission rules, but they want to basically regulate carbon dioxide that is put off. And by declaring that a toxic waste, they're able to tax it and able to shrink the size of engines. In fact, they're in the news now talking about commercial and also private aviation, the aircraft getting slower, things going in reverse because we have to cut our carbon by 20% just in the next few years and then by 50% in the next decade. We're talking about crippling industrial civilization and not having anything to replace it. But don't worry, government aircraft will be exempt from this, and President Obama has ordered the most massive new Air Force One in history, the biggest and the longest, and he personally just made that decision. Now, what's the rest of the story here? Well, everyone knows that for decades, insiders blew the whistle about NSA spying and bulk data collection. And the media spun it and said no such thing is happening. We also, for decades, heard that so many other government programs weren't taking place, and then later it would come out that they were taking place. There are countless examples of government and media working together to keep us in the dark. Until the early 1950s, we were told that there was no such thing as organized crime in this country. Everyone now knows that, of course, it was always going on, and not just Italian, but across the board. Everything from German to Irish to Jewish to Filipino, it's been going on. It's been happening. But this is part of the childlike state that they have tried to basically keep the population in for so long. Whether it's on the Patriot Act being used against citizens or illegal NSA spying. But the rest of the story here is weather modification. It has been well known since the 70s that Western governments, but also the Russians, could manipulate hurricanes, typhoons, could actually start hurricanes and typhoons. During Vietnam, Ben Livingston, the father of weather weapons, led squadrons in that would flood the Ho Chi Minh Trail. He could take a clear blue sky and turn it into huge thunderheads that would dump 2 feet of water in just a few hours.
My name is Ben Livingston. I'm the first person to ever see the cloud with the intention to cause it to do military damage. I know I can say that, and I did it several times before the next person did it.
Tell me what these clouds are we're looking at.
Well, these clouds were located up in the southern part of North Vietnam, and we needed to make rain down on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, Highway 1. But there weren't any real clouds around. There were a number, this was the end of the monsoon season, but there were a number of these small clouds that barely reached the freezing level, and by putting a small amount of silver iodide in there, we got them to collect and start to build. And as they built, we just worked on the largest tower in the group until in just a very short time we had the clouds that were...
You told me this cloud got 14 inches of...
Well, this cloud, of course, this is all the same cloud.
In 1978, they had the Environmental Modification Convention outlawing the weaponization of these weather control systems. But again, You ask the average American about it, they don't know about it because, well, the media either ridicules it or doesn't cover it. Now, occasionally they do tell the truth. Here's ABC News, weather engineering in China. And it just goes into them clearing the skies for the 2008 Olympics. So those are just some of the examples. We also have NASA coming out a decade ago and then again last year and saying the Earth is between 20 and 30% more darker in the northern hemisphere than it was just a few decades ago. And that's not because the sun has really changed. It's because, as satellite images show, the condensation trails from jet aircraft are so numerous that they're blocking out the sun. But they're not just ice crystals. Some of them are real condensation trails. Others have had aluminum dioxide, barium salts, and even radioactive isotopes added. We have the U.S. Patent Office documents on this. A globalist won a Nobel Prize back in the early 90s for coming up with the idea of a sunscreen to protect the Earth from the sun. The truth is, it's a giant secret global program that's partially declassified and going on a mass scale. So they're trying to restrict engine size and slow down jet aircraft and make us go backwards to, quote, save us from carbon dioxide that plants breathe and then put off oxygen from, while ignoring the fact that they're spraying the skies with aluminum that's deadly for plants, animals, you name it, not to mention all the other chemicals. And what's crazy is they have national media come out and say, I'm a conspiracy theory, that we're engaged in made-up garbage when we're covering real stuff that's been happening, real things that are unfolding. It's just like the Manhattan Project. In today's numbers, it cost $4 or $5 trillion, they estimate. It cost tens of billions at the time. They kept it secret for 5 years from the public, and there was over 50,000 people closely associated with it. Well, they've kept this quasi-secret, and then all they do is ridicule people when they talk about it. When the TPP was being set up to hand over our sovereignty and merge the North American Union with the Asian Union, I began to cover it. And they would have national media say that we were making it up and we're insane. When we covered other UN treaties, like the Rio de Janeiro Agenda 21 from 1992, they would say it's insane, doesn't exist, even though we have the public documents. Now they admit, though, yeah, these treaties do put us under international corporate control. They will make the rules about what happens in the U.S. Monsanto now goes to the World Trade Organization to stop labeling in the U.S. You see, they go outside to these other bodies where our national sovereignty has been transferred to. We need to have a serious discussion, a bipartisan, across-the-board discussion about weather modification. Listen, they still say the SR-71 in service in the mid-50s is the fastest plane in the world, flying upwards of Mach 5. Ladies and gentlemen, they've got aircraft that have been classified that are much, much faster. And that just shows you how we're in this frozen technological development system that the Bilderberg Group wants of negative growth. They want to freeze us in a dark age while the elites have access to these technological reservations and life extension technologies, and that they get to basically ascend. So they're stealing our culture, our civilization, our brain trust. Exactly what Eisenhower warned us about, a technological elite in control of the military-industrial complex taking over.
An opposite danger, that public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific, technological elite.
And that's because we now know that L.L. Lemnitzer, the Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman, and others came to him basically with the larger globalist plan to be part of it, and Eisenhower rebuked it and said it was horrible. Well, unfortunately, this group has gone from being prominent through the Rockefeller and Carnegie Foundations and actually funding Hitler because the U.S. wouldn't fully adopt it. Hitler then failed, and that plan has come back here to the United States. It's very, very sophisticated, but if you're aware of it, it can be beat. But it's all about covert. We bring it out in the light. They said Bilderberg Group didn't exist. Now they admit it exists. On so many things, they want to just end debate by saying it isn't happening. But if you just research it, don't Google chemtrails, because that's just what the lay term. You look at weather modification, geoengineering, basically terraforming here on the planet. You'll get thousands of university reports, Department of Energy programs. It's going on. It's going on big time. If they even put it in kids' textbooks now to condition them and admit it's happening, but tell them it's good. To adults, they go, no, it doesn't exist. This is how they condescend to us. So am I worried about carbon dioxide? Absolutely not. Am I worried about geoengineering and genetic engineering and all these other crazy super science fiction stuff? You bet I am. And all you ISIS people threatening us, hey, we're not a French newspaper, okay? We got people that have taken your asses out in this building right now. We're armed to the teeth, and we're not scared. You got that, you sons of bitches? This is Texas. You want to threaten me, you can go straight to hell. You understand that?
Never water yourself down just because someone can't handle you at 100 proof. It's the Alex Jones Show, because there's a war on for your mind.
It's burning the shit out of California, and it's just shriveling up like a dry pussy. The implications for this, if we don't stop it, are epic, biblical. Now, I'm not going to get into the big shit about weather weapons and stuff like that, okay? It fucking exists. It has since the fucking late 40s, early 50s. And you can go anywhere and look that up. Now it even says in the Geneva Convention that you cannot, no country may use weather as a weapon against another country. It says you can use it freely though in your own country if you want to use cloud seeding and shit like that to make it rain or whatever. Go right ahead, but you can't do it with another country. It would be considered, I think this is probably right up there with, you know, GMOs in the food and fluoride in the water. This is bad shit. Now, chemtrails is the name that they give for the conspiracy theorists. That's what they say, don't look at this, these people are crazy, you know, whatever. The fact is, they talk about this all the time, except they don't use that term. They use geoengineering. Or what they really use is solar radiation management. Weather warfare, if you will. But recently they've been starting to come out with this ocean fertilization, is what it's called. Now they could say that they're doing this to help with global warming and stuff like that. I don't buy it for a fucking second. I do know one thing.
Just a smokescreen of hope. You acting like we got control over who gets chosen. I think it's a joke. The president's on dope, different coke. He's just a puppet of Patsy, taking orders from a cult to the mask. He was dancing with the devil, so we can't ever trust. You got us by the balls, power, blood, money, and lust. Just take control of yourself. You know that change is a must. The initials of the U.S. is us. Before you join the military, see what the war's about. We got a lot of dirt to clean in our house.
Committed treason. It's the reason we stand and we fight through the darkness and the light. The government lied.
Soldiers died in the fire of war. They got burnt. They had to learn the hard way. The freedom isn't free, so they paid the
price with their life. And now you miss them. Some are still missing. This ain't the Christian coalition. I'm a child of the earth that study this knowledge without a need of a church. Of course I thank the Lord, but no thank you for the war. All of what we fighting for. It's the rich against the poor. Missiles flying overhead. Bodies coming home dead.
Ago, a secret dream was planned. Before Columbus came, they knew about this land. For the post-war plan of the manner to cross borders is first make chaos, then bring order. They claim to help and instead create the problem and pose as the heroes placed there to solve them eventually. Eventually, it will be a one-world democracy. It'll be placed with a two-faced hypocrisy. Another crime committed against the common good. And when it's said and done, we're still misunderstood. It's not a question of who's wrong or right. I know that personal greed ain't no reason to fight.
And I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran.
This is the business, and y'all ain't getting nothing for free. And if you devils play broke, then I'm taking your company. You could call it reparations or restitution. Lock and load, nigga.
Hey, what's up, folks? Wicksack Info Bros. So we're gonna be doing some videos on geoengineering, chemtrails, if you will. And we're going to take this one step by step because this is huge. I think that it's probably a tie as far as a serious threat to our society. I mean, as a people, the plants, I mean, everything. This entails everything. The health of everything. The health of everyone.